Pretty looking people, but I can tell you people, they were the devil's children. Body of...
Greetings from Castle Goring, from Mickey Aurora and from me. I am going to plunge right in with what Mr. Whiskey has to say, because we have a lot of ground to cover today and there's a lot of really interesting stuff, which I think is going over many people's heads, and hopefully, because I've been asked one or two penetrating questions, and I'm going to give the answers to them, which will hopefully give you an idea as to the reality of what is truly going on. So, Mr. Whiskey says, the picture of Harry leaving, obviously Clarence's house, shows he was not a happy man. Things obviously never went as he had expected / planned. Very well spotted. I think, in honesty, or in actual fairness to Harry, that they went as well as he could have realistically expected them to go, presuming that he has any connection to reality. And I actually have to tell you, I think both he and Meghan do have some connection to reality. And if you think this is all about happy families and reconciliation, you're quite wrong. It is about Harry and Meghan re-establishing, insofar as they are able to, the royal connection, to have some royal gold dust be floating over their images. And having done that, because basically Harry knows that William will never forgive him. He knows that there are several other members of the family whom I'm not going to name who will never forgive him. He knows that his father will never trust him. He knows that his stepmother will never trust him. What was this meeting about? This meeting was a PR exercise to re-establish Harry's royal links in much the same way that he flew over and bounced his father into meeting him the last time when his father, the announcement of his father's illness took place. And Harry made sure that the king couldn't get out of meeting him, because the king's office was only informed that Harry was on his way from California to England when he was in the air. And this time it's been a little bit more sophisticated, but Harry knows that basically he has destroyed his relationship, save for the possible husk of it with his father. And he has even destroyed it with the husk of it with his brother. Harry knows that. And anybody who tells you to the contrary doesn't know what they're speaking about. That is my understanding, and I think I have been properly informed. So, why did he organize it? And why did the king agree to it? Because the king agreed to it because actually, and I have to say, I had reservations about the king agreeing to any meeting, and I have actually come to realize that Tobin Andre is a lot cleverer than I gave him credit for being. You need to understand the part that each person is playing to understand what the play, so to speak, is all about. Tobin Andre, being an ex-mailman, knows the newspaper industry very well, and the Mail in particular very, very well. The Mail at the moment is playing gabbles to Harry and Meghan's Adolf. let's be clear about what's going on. Why? Not because they love Harry or Meghan, but because they're eager to get the lawsuit settled. Many people in the press, many journalists in the press, don't understand. They think that the mail is being leaked to by the King's office and by Tobin Andre. That's not what's going on. The King and Tobin Andre have brilliantly outmaneuvered Harry, and I'm going to tell you how they did it. I'm going to show you how they did it. But before I show you that, I'm going to answer the question particularly and then move on. Because what Harry left really miserable. Harry went to his next meeting at the Gherkin in the outskirts of the city, and he was late. I've been to the Gherkin. And I have to tell you, why was Harry 45 minutes late? Because Tobin, Andre, and the King have been clever enough to convey the message silently that Harry didn't get any of the privileges that are accorded to members of the royal family or indeed high status individuals. He was treated along the lines of pretty minor functionaries who have to come and, for instance, he didn't enter through the main gates the way the Duchess of Edinburgh did a few minutes before him and then departed a few minutes before his arrival. So let's understand what's really going on here. There is a message right there, loud and clear, for anybody who wants to know. Sophie Edinburgh is a fully paid up member of the family and treated accordingly and allowed to enter Clarence house through the gates of the Mall, which are reserved for the members of the family and high status individuals who are visiting. Low status individuals who are visiting go through the back, through the visitors' entrance, which is where Harry had to go. That's one thing. Another thing that gives a loud and clear message to those who actually have the knowledge to be able to, and the intelligence, I should say, to interpret what has really happened, is that not only was Harry accorded minor functionary status, but although he was given security, he was not given top-level security. For instance, his vehicle was not what one calls a blue lights vehicle. There are many vehicles in this country that have blue lights. When they turn on the lights, everybody clears a path. It's like a fire engine's siren. Harry wasn't given one of those. Why wasn't Harry given one of those? Because the palace was giving a message, loud and clear, that although the meeting was taking place, don't misinterpret it. Don't make more of it than it deserves. It doesn't deserve more to be made of it. And if you're tempted to make more of it, as say the Mail has been tempted to, and some of the other newspapers, here is another message. Harry was not accorded royal status. Lord Mountbatten, who was actually a member of the extended royal family, but was not a member of the royal family itself. He was Prince Philip's uncle, but he was not a member of the royal family, which Harry incidentally still is. But Lord Mountbatten used to drive around London. I remember this very well. In a blue lights car. In those days, they weren't built into the vehicles the way they are nowadays. You'd put it on and put it on top of your vehicle, and the lights would, and so everybody, get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of the way. Someone important is coming through. That's a loud and clear message that Harry, and they knew, incidentally, what they were doing. How do I know they knew what they were doing? They were fully aware that there was going to be a strike of the Transport for London staff, that the city would grind to a halt and that traffic would be gridlocked, as indeed it has been. I know, I was caught up in it, and so was everybody else this week. Sadly, I don't have a blue light vehicle. However, I'm not a member of the royal family. I tell you, what a message to give. They knew, they being the palace, they knew that the situation with the strike was such that Harry would inevitably be caught up in traffic and would inevitably be late. I mean, conspiracy theorists might actually think, oh, well, maybe Transport for London was in cahoots with the palace. Of course, that's ludicrous because they weren't. But the palace took full advantage of the situation so that Harry would inevitably be late for his next engagement after he had seen the king. Clever, no? Very clever. The question we have to ask ourselves is Harry trying to mend fences, or is something more ominous going on? Harry knows that no matter what happens, he will never be restored to grace. He knows it. He's told people it. He's said it. He knows it. I know it. Everybody who knows anything about the royal family knows it. So, is something more ominous than a reconciliation going on? Well, it could be a genuine reconciliation if Harry said, oh, Pa, I've decided I'm going to go into the 12-step program and I'm going to give up smoking weed and doing all sorts of drugs, and I'm going to stop blowing whatever might be left of my mind if ever I had one. No. That's not happening. Harry hasn't changed. Harry is with Meghan. Everybody knows that as long as Harry is with Meghan, he is beyond redemption. He cannot be trusted. I've said it. I said it on the Dan Wooten show, and I'm saying it again, and I've said it elsewhere as well. No meeting between father and son is taking place now, or in the past recently, or in the future, without other parties being present. That's right. Why? Because they know Harry can't be trusted, and Harry has already shown them he can't be trusted. Harry has said just enough for everybody in the know to know that he is manipulating the situation. Oh, how was everything with your father? Instead of saying, well, I would love to be able to answer that question. And of course, I love my father dearly. But if you don't mind, I wouldn't like to violate his privacy or confidence or anything. None of that. He dismissed it cleverly, great. But he's also leaked to people that the meeting went better than he thought, and it's shown up in the Mail amongst presumably other publications. The meeting didn't go well, sorry. It was a platitudinous meeting. You can bank on it. It was a controlled experiment to keep the rat in his cage. That's what it was. And to outmaneuver Harry and Meghan so that they would not be able to say, oh, you see, Pa's dying and he won't receive me. But a 25-minute meeting over a cup of tea, not alone. Charles's message is very subtle, but if you know the way the palace works, you can actually begin to see through it. He has been demeaned by Harry, and he is now demeaning Harry. Oh, it was polite, scripted, a chilly dance. The sort of thing that you do with an estranged member of the family or a deadly enemy with whom you have to have some contact. You know, Harry and Meghan think they've been playing a very canny game. And they have now been leaking, and it is they, it's not just Harry alone. They have been leaking, and of course, the Mail comes to the rescue yet again, that this is a harbinger of things to come, that Harry might bring over the children without Meghan. Where does that come from? That comes from Meredith Main's and Harry's PR team. That comes from Harry. That comes from Meghan. So they are now upping the game, and they are making sure that they derive the benefits they intended to derive from the visit, which they are spinning as a very successful, harmonious reconciliation, and things have begun to such an extent that, oh, well, in 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, well, if we're really mean and nasty, 4 weeks, Lilibet and Archie are going to be brought over with their father. Their mother won't come. Oh, but then, of course, there is the problem with their security. So they're not going to be able to come at all. Wait for it. Wait for it. And the joke of the whole security issue is that when the children are here, when Harry is here, staying in the royal fold, and even when he's not staying in the royal fold, he has security. So security is not the problem. Security is the red herring. Security is the fig leaf. Security is the excuse. And do you think those children are coming over anytime soon? Well, I think I'll tell you what will happen. Meghan and Harry will doubtless come over if they think it is to their advantage and they can spin that the king is dying rather more quickly than he is. And that they can then get another photo op out of it, and they can get more good publicity, and they can begin to ratify the process that they have been undertaking for some time, that Harry is half in and half out. Look at what's happened. Harry has been to this meeting with his father. Harry leaves, he does a whole host of other semi-official duties while he's here. Invictus, donating £1.1 million to children in need, the BBC organisations, charity. So he'll get brownie points from the BBC, which will assist in his publicity and in his being in bed with the BBC, so that they can continue to undermine the prestige of the monarchy, using that useful idiot Harry to do so, while Harry is exploitatively using them to knife his brother and thereafter undermine the rest of the royal family and its interests. Do you begin to see how this is actually playing out if you really understand who's got what sympathies and where the true interests lie? Because let's remember, the BBC is packed with apparatchiks who are functionaries of the state. The BBC is a state organisation, and one of its leading lights told me that it is packed to its rafters with MI5 and MI6, many of whom are not monarchist. They want a socialist republic of Great Britain, and Ireland will go back to the Irish. That's what's going on there. But what is a tragedy, and in human terms, is that Charles loves his son. And Charles is a very warm, kind, affectionate man who actually he's rather like the late Queen. He doesn't like confrontation. He likes everything to be harmonious. And he will sooner run away from a fight than draw his sword. Except in this instance, because he understands what is at stake. It's not only his relationship with Harry. It's the crown. It's William. It's the future of the monarchy. So he has been relatively firm. And I understand that silly woman, Ingrid Seward, was on television saying that she imagined that the King and Harry would have been speaking about money. I mean, talk about idiotic. The one thing the King would never speak to Harry about face to face is money. I mean, he's been running from Harry's demands for money, as Harry himself has confirmed. So the idea that they were going to have a conversation along those lines is just, well, it shows the level of ignorance that prevails, because the only conversation that would have taken place was on non-subjects, nothing of any significance. But Harry knows that his father loves him. Harry knows that his father wants to go to his grave, feeling that things with Harry are sort of squared away. Harry and Meghan are playing a really mean and nasty game with his father. They are doing what they did with Prince Philip and the Queen. They are hardballing Charles. They are making sure that he knows, and everybody in royal circles knows, that they are playing him, so not because they love him, but because it suits them for worldly gain and for reputational reasons and for possible commercial enterprises to be seen to have some sort of reconciliation with him. Well, there is no reconciliation of any significance. And there's not going to be as long as Harry is with Meghan. And if they think that his father, his stepmother, his brother, his sister-in-law, the other members of the family, and people in the know haven't figured out what their game is and how they are intent on ruining the last days and years of his father's life the way they did to his grandparents, they need to think again, because the Mail and many journalists and some members of the public may not be able to add up 2 and 2 and get 4. They might think it's 22 or 2.2, but it's 4. 2 and 2 equals 4. They know it. Anybody who has 2 grains of sense in their head knows it as well. People need to remember that Harry's father, his stepmother, believe it or not, his brother, his sister-in-law, his aunt, his uncles, his cousins, they loved Harry. They absolutely loved him. They didn't think he was perfect. They certainly knew he wasn't perfect. They knew he was troubled and could be troubling, but they genuinely loved him. Can you imagine how awful it is for them? Well, put yourself in their shoes. How awful would it be for you when you have loved someone and that person turns on you the way Harry has turned on the whole of his family? Not because of anything they actually rarely did that was anything but petty family stuff, but because Meghan Markle, that greedy, vicious, manipulative, calculating, money-sucking, blood-sucking succubus, decided that she wanted to play the royal family so that she would be able to exploit their positions to her financial benefit. Because that's what has happened. And don't think people but people in certain circles aren't aware of it. Yeah, it's a PR win for Harry. I mean, he has been received, of course, as I pointed out, if you actually stop and think the conditions and the duration upon which he was received, it begins to not look quite so much like the victory that he and his PR people would like to spin it as being. But once you are aware of what has happened, you can see the king and Tobin Andre, and my understanding is that Tobin Andre is the person who has encouraged this with the king. William doesn't want to have anything to do with his brother, now or ever. My understanding is that William would have preferred that his father give a wide berth to his brother. But William also understands that his father loves both his sons. And William himself is a father of children. And William is sufficiently sympathetic, and he is sufficiently mature, and he has a sufficiently empathetic streak in his nature to have put himself in his father's shoes. And you can depend on it, he is fully up to speed with the fact that Harry was received in such a way that ultimately the message would get out that he had been received ignominiously. How do they know that people would ultimately receive the message? Because they know that there are sufficient people in the public eye who have mouths and brains like me and are going to say what really happened, and that they don't need to brief against Harry. They don't need to tell anybody anything. They know that they are delivering messages silently that we are receiving loud and clear, and we are going to convey eloquently. So, what also seems to have Harry have thought was a win for him was some of his nasty cracks at William's expense. I mean, Harry is so low and pathetic, it's almost beyond belief. For instance, at the WellChild Awards, there was a nice young man, Declan Bitmead, 17 years old. So Harry is now doing his cheeky, chappy, hail fellow, well met, I'm Prince Harry and I just love everybody and everybody loves me. And it has to be said, he does it very well. That's why he was the second most popular member of the royal family after the late Queen for many years, and why he was the most popular royal male in the family for many years. Harry has charm. When he wants to, he has charm. He has the patina of empathy. He has many socially desirable skills. He has things going for him. When he's around Meghan, no, because he knows his place, and his place is underneath her heel. But when he's on his own, he comes into his own rather more. And he certainly did on this visit. So what does he do? He says to this young man, because he knows the cameras are there, and he can't resist being a bitch, making a dig. So he asks the young man about his family. Now, Harry's not a fool. Well, actually, he is a fool, but he's not so dumb that he doesn't know that practically everybody has a family. So, and if Declan Bitmead hadn't had a family, you can depend on it, he was going to go to the next person, because Meghan sets traps for people, and I have noticed that Harry has been playing Meghan games with the progress of time that go straight back to Meghan's modus operandi. And you can depend on it that they have both worked on how they can knife William publicly and come out with zingers and nasty little comments. So what does Harry do? He grills this young man about his family. And of course, the young man says he has family and mentions that he has a brother. So Harry, who has obviously been waiting for this, or actually he wasn't waiting for it, he created the opportunity. And doubtless, as I say, if it hadn't worked with that one, it was going to work with someone else, because he was going to replicate it until he got the desired effect, which was for him to be able to say, does he drive you mad? And he doesn't need to say it, but everybody knows that he's saying, like my brother drives me mad. No, we get on fine, says Declan. Harry, you know what? Siblings, because he's stumped. He's hoping that, and he's not as resourceful as Meghan. Of course, she would have ground her jaw, flexed those muscles, which I'm afraid I can't do. And she would have then flashed those Charles Manson eyes and said something cutting. But Harry know what to do. So you know what, siblings. Perfectly anodyne comment. And then he asks if they're at the same school, because remember, Harry and William were at the same school. And Harry had nothing but complaints about the fact that William ignored him when they were at Eton, which I am assured by people who are at Eton together actually is not true, but that's something else again. You're at the same school, Harry observes. That sometimes makes it more challenging, knowing, of course, that the press is going to pick up all of this. So you see, keeping the conflict bubbling over. Isn't it charming of Harry? Isn't he a wonderful person? I mean, talk about a jerk. And people think or hope that he and Meghan are going to be ever embraced by the royal family. Pigs will fly first. Mark my words. Pigs will fly first. Yes, pigs will fly first. And on that note, may I say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in. And please, 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 remember, if you have truly liked this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and take good care. Bye-bye.